Hi, welcome to another episode of Beyond Chronic Disease. And this week I'm doing a special week on Suicide Prevention Week. And with me, I have another Access Bars practitioner, Ivanka Nightingale. Hi, Ivanka. How are you?
Hi, Wendy. I'm well. How are you going?
I'm fabulous, thank you. So if you've been listening into my podcast the last few days, I decided to, I'm an Access Bars practitioner and soon to be facilitator if I pay for my license. And when I discovered Access Consciousness through my cousin, who I will be having on the podcast tomorrow, it just changed my life dramatically. I was in such overwhelmed state of mind, monkey mind, all that chatter that was going on. And one session of bars just completely overhauled my whole way of thinking. So that's why I decided to do this week for Suicide Prevention Week. And also the co-creator, Dr. Dane here, he was he set a date to end his life, and then he came across Access Bars, and he's gone on to create such an amazing, co-create an amazing business along with Gary Douglas, the founder. So Ivanka and I met at another Access course called Foundations. So, and I just absolutely adore Ivanka. She runs a massage business called Heart Tone, or her business is called Heart Tones, and she does kahuna massage, her main focus, and she also has repertoire in Access Bars, facelift, and body processes. So she's one to look up, and all her details will be in the show notes at the end. So Ivanka, we're talking Access Bars this week. So when did you come across Access Consciousness, and what was your first session like?
Quite an interesting story. So first I heard of Access about 7 years ago from one of my kahuna clients who just said, I feel like you just need to include some Access questions, like how does it get any better than this into your life? And at the time, I wasn't really very receptive. And I actually looked up Access Bars and saw some diagrams and thought, wow, like this is so overwhelming, really not for me. And I left it. And then last year, with my kahuna business, I really was feeling like I needed to add something, but really felt like I didn't have the energy to study anything significant at that point in my life. And then somebody said, well, look, you can just do a weekend workshop. And I do enjoy reading about consciousness a lot. And as universe and consciousness works, I thought, well, let me just look up Access. There was a one-day workshop called Access Bars just between Christmas and New Year, and I thought perfect timing. So I went to it with no point of view, no expectation. I had nothing to resolve. I just went for the experience. And that was my first experience of Access Bars.
Nice.
So because I didn't have an expectation, I wasn't shifting anything. I suppose I didn't have a palpable defense. I have been, doing work on myself for a while. And usually when I go into a session of any kind, I go with a purpose. And so I can notice that there is a difference. But definitely in the days after, I noticed there was a lot more space in my world, and my mind, like you said, was a lot quieter. And that was the first Access Bar session I had. And then during that, it pinged that there was a body process class. And I thought, oh, great, this would contribute to the kahuna. And then to do that, I had to do foundation. So they're the kind of three things that have been part of my year. And with all the books about Access that are available, that has had tremendous impact on my life, because it's given me questions and empowered me when I'm faced with that overwhelm to just go, okay, what can I do here? What can I change? How can I change my point of view? So that's been a fantastic journey throughout this year, just to have something rather than be stuck in the yak energy of the moment. And, it's been evolving. I haven't always had the questions at the time when I really needed them because of all the patterns that pop up and habitual thinking. But definitely through this year, I've noted there's been a lot more ease and just that knowing that there is a different possibility.
And that's what I'll just explain the question when you keep talking about questions. With access consciousness, we are always in the question. What we you know, if we come across, like for instance, I've been quite busy over the last 6 weeks downsizing a home and you know, changing my whole lifestyle. And it's been very full on, having to coordinate building works and still live a normal life and you know, do everything that I was doing prior to that. So there's always been what everyone would call a problem, I guess. And when there's a problem, you always tend to get upset, angry, frustrated, and all of that. Well, I think in the last 6 weeks, I've probably laughed more than what I have in my whole life.
Oh, amazing.
And that's through, you know, really the questions of access, like, well, how does it get any better? You know, what is this really like? Just these are the questions that I ask myself. Like, you know, what's the worst what's the worst case scenario? That's what I ask.
Yes.
Whether that's an access question or what, I have no idea. But you know, it's just another, like you say, another possibility. You know, and it is an amazing. It's amazing modality, and it's just common sense to a certain degree, isn't it? I think, like, instead of going into that, we always go into overwhelm. And I know when I found access and I was in that overwhelm, that it just you just wonder why you get to that point. And when you ask questions, you don't seem to get to that point anymore of overwhelm, do you?
No, and interestingly, I'm reading through the one of the books of access called The Right Body for You. And in that book, it says you don't need to know why. If it's happening, so is this something you want to continue to choose, or would you like to choose something else? And I do love that simplicity of it. It does take a little while to get to it, I think, because we trained to find out why and to have the answers. Very much about your questions, and I myself have done a fair bit of, you know, therapy for myself, just being vulnerable in that. And I've really wanted to know why I was behaving in certain ways and where things were rooted. But kind of getting to a certain level of personal peace that is not as important to me anymore. And I am able more to go, wow, this is what I'm choosing. What else can I choose that would be lighter for me, you know?
And I think when we wonder why, like I always wondered why am I not choosing like other women are choosing?
Yes.
You know, why does that not, you know, what is wrong with me? You know,
Yes.
that was the point that I got at. And access consciousness say that there's nothing wrong with you. You know, that's always that's the point that we get at. We always think that there's something wrong with us because we're not choosing like other people are choosing. But like you say, it's not light for us. We talk light and heavy in access as well. If it's not light for us, we don't want to choose it. So I like that, the simplicity of it all, and it's not always, you know, it's not always ease. Sometimes you know, and it is a work in progress because there's no such thing as perfection.
No.
And we're all human, I guess.
Try to.
So, but yes, I know when I don't know, it's just changed so much for me after that first session. And I too found access around December last year. And I think we went on a little bit of a journey together. We were at a few classes together, weren't we?
Yes, we were.
But I still find every session that I have with bars, it just really, it just, I can feel the energy around my head. As soon as somebody touches my head, it just pings for me so dramatically. And I always feel so much ease after that. And I'm going to the the Mind Body Spirit Festival. Have you been to one and done the bars at the
I've
festival?
considered signing up for it for the September, but I haven't yet. I am actually going to see Caroline on the Sunday of that weekend. She's doing a suicide prevention day at Redland Bay. So I felt more for me. I find that in big spaces with lots of people, I actually get very distracted and like thinned out, and my sort of focus in myself gets taken out. So I feel that's maybe why I haven't signed up for it, because there's just so much energy of other people. So having a smaller occasion probably works for me. Yeah.
No, and that's perfectly okay, and that's the difference with everybody, and there's no wrong or right there, is there? The reason I asked that, Ivanka, was I find that after I go to a session when I was at the last festival that I went to, the energy there was just so profound that when I got home, I slept for 10 hours straight. It was just so amazing, and it was so much fun. So yeah, but yes, Caroline Watson has got from Thriving Possibilities. She has got a day. Is it at Redland Bay or Victoria Point?
It's at the place called, is it the White House?
The White House at Victoria Point.
Yeah.
Suicide Prevention Day on Sunday the 10th.
I think it's 11th.
Is that the 11th?
I believe so. Yeah.
The 11th. Okay. So we are looking at what day. It'll be in 3 days' time. Thursday. Today's the Thursday. Yes. So it'll be Friday, Saturday. It'll be in a couple of days after this podcast airs.
Yes.
It'll be in a couple of days' time. So I'll put the link to that in the show notes too, if anybody is keen on going to attending the Suicide Prevention Day with Caroline Watson from Thriving Possibilities. So Ivanka, what else would you say about the access bars?
Yeah. So I noticed that you say that every time somebody touches your head, you just have that ping of energy. I can't say that I have that. So whenever I've had bars, I don't really feel anything in my head. And even when I've gifted bars, I don't always feel things moving through the person. But then when they get off the table, they'll go, well, I was feeling this or seeing that. Probably one of the most profound sessions I've had with Access was when I was experiencing a lot of overwhelm when Ukraine got attacked, because my family live in Slovakia, which is right next door. And I went to see Caroline through the flooded roads in Brisbane. It was the day of the flooding. And had actually amazing session where I felt a lot in my body. So, and at some points, Caroline was even saying, I'm not even touching your head at this point, because my body was shifting what it needed to shift. And sometimes, the session is quite dramatic. Like that was a very dramatic session for me. I haven't had a session like that with anybody except once or twice for a long time. But sometimes it is just receiving and then noticing. Definitely notice the space in my life after. I actually asked my daughter, because I wasn't sure what I was going to say about the impact of bars, and she said, every time you come back, you're a lot happier.
Yeah,
and
that's nice.
So so that's like from an external observer. So I'm just putting that out there, because if people do go and try access for themselves, especially access bars, and they're lying on the table and they're thinking, well, nothing's happening. I guess there's an amount of trust involved that actually something has happened, and just noticing perhaps even subtle changes in the days that follow. I think one thing that Access has given me this year, and this kind of ties in with the whole suicide prevention week, is I had a time in my life where I also considered suicide. And especially since foundation, there's a clearing in foundation about when you feel that overwhelm and you just want to get out. You just think you can't do it anymore. And since foundation, whenever I feel that, I run that. Because now I know that there are other possibilities. I might not know what they are, but just getting through that moment and acknowledging in that moment of, oh my God, I really don't want to be here anymore. That, wait a minute, something else is possible. running the clear, trusting the clearing, you know, you get through it, then another day something else happens, something good happens. And so I've kind of committed to not going, I want to get out of here, just not thinking that, you know, and committed to, okay, what else is possible? What else can happen? What else can I choose? As much as I don't necessarily know what that is and what that's going to look like. Yeah.
And I love that. I love how you explained that, Ivanka, and thank you so much for sharing that with me. And I think that's really important, that people do know that there are other possibilities, but sometimes you don't realize that there are when you're in such that state. I mean,
the
I've been
depths of despair. Yes.
Yeah. When your mind is just so full of despair, you just can't see a way out, which is
exactly.
So I'm so glad that you're able to speak to me today about that, because it was just that was beautiful. I love that. And it does give. And when going back to that, when I do feel the energy, it doesn't matter, you know, if you feel it or if you don't, like you say, it does create differences, you know, in the preceding days. So
it does. And sometimes you just need to feel a bit different. Hopefully putting a judgment of it. Hopefully feeling there's just a little bit more space. And also the can mind a bit. And I would hope that anybody, you know, who is considering any such thing just persists and just keeps, because, you know, there are things. It doesn't necessarily have to be access, but access bars is definitely one thing to change.
Well, I hadn't come across access consciousness in all of my life, and I'm 54 now. So it wasn't until, you know, late last year that like I said, my cousin, who's going to be on the show tomorrow, mentioned it to me, because I was telling her what was going on in my life at the time. And I have done lots of different healing modalities. I've done lots of work over the years as well, and yet there was still something missing. And that's why when I found access, I thought, this is really important. Like, this is something that like we know we don't necessarily know everything that's out there. And I just thought it just makes a profound change. And considering the co-creator, Dr. Dane here, was you know, had set a date to end his life, and he found access, and it changed it all around for him. Was just I just needed to do this week. It was very, very important for me.
Yes, I totally feel that.
And I always feel ease after having my bars run. It just gives me I don't know, a real sense of calm and peace. Which is really amazing. And I always know when I need to have my bars run, because I'm starting to feel a little bit agitated and all that. So look, Ivanka, thanks so much for sharing your stories about access. And I'm sure I am going to put all your I'm losing my words now, Ivanka.
Just now, I know. Stepped into the energy a little bit, and the mind just
in the show notes for people to look you up, and you can give them a beautiful Kahuna massage, or you can do an access bars treatment on them, and I'm sure they'll walk away from your healing space with ease, because I've been to Ivanka's healing space, people, and it's just beautiful. And Ivanka's a beautiful human, and she's very calming to your soul. And even just speaking to her, you'll walk away with ease.
Oh, so kind, Wendy. Thank you.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm so grateful for you to be part of my Suicide Prevention Week podcast.
It's my pleasure.
It was very important to me to have access bars practitioners on here this week. Thanks again, Ivanka. And
thank you, Wendy.
I'll see you soon.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.